Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Happy Friday. It is time for the weekend and time for another Newcastle United game. We play Brighton away tomorrow. 3 o'clock kickoff, the second game of the season. Obviously we started with a win against Nottingham Forest and I would love to see us try and get 3 points again tomorrow, but I do not think it's going to be an easy game. And Eddie Howe has spoken today in his pre-match press conference. He's spoken about the game, so we will go through a little bit on Brighton here today. He's also spoken about injury updates. Jonjo Shelvey now understood to be out for 12 weeks. Eddie Howe has said that he will include him in the 25-man squad as of right now. Things could change. We'll talk a little bit about that and whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. He's talked about transfers as well. He's given us a little bit of an update. Unfortunately, as I said, I didn't think we would have somebody signed in time for the game tomorrow, but he sounds hopeful that something could happen next week. And he's also spoken about the fact that he's been educating the current Newcastle United players on the history of Newcastle. They've spoken about certain players. They've watched some game footage. And he even said that he would love it if Kevin Keegan were to go down and talk to some of the players about the history of the club. So, yeah, some really good things to hear. And as I say, the main thing is heading into a Brighton game tomorrow that we know is going to be a tough one. We have not beat Brighton at the Amex in the Premier League. It's not the greatest record there. The last time we beat them down there was the Championship game where Diarmé scored with his ankle. So, you know what it is? If that's what it takes to get another win against Brighton this weekend, I really hope we can get another goal just like that one. But we'll start things off with, let's go with the injury news. So I mentioned earlier, Jonjo Shelvey was thought to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. We now understand that is going to be 12 weeks. Eddie Howe was asked if he plans to include Jonjo Shelvey in the squad. The squad is released, you put your squad in, and then you can change it again in January. So bearing in mind 12 weeks pretty much takes us to, 12 weeks, 3 months takes us to pretty much the World Cup. And then the World Cup ends, and then it's January. So Jonjo Shelvey could, in theory, use that World Cup break as almost a mini pre-season for himself before he returns to playing time. What Eddie Howe has said, and he was caught on the spot a little bit with this one, so I'll give it to him. He said that if there's a chance Jonjo can return early, he wants to have him in the team. So I think it's a fair comment to make. We don't know exactly who we're going to let go of, who we're going to bring in the next 2.5 weeks. So that could well change, but from what Eddie Howe said, it sounds like he will include him and pray and hope that maybe Jonjo was actually back sooner than 12 weeks. He spoke about Jamal Lascelles. He'd picked up a little knock. He said that he will be available for the game against Brighton tomorrow. He's obviously the club captain, so he comes up in these interview conversations quite a lot. How's Jamal Lascelles? How's the club captain? And I want Lascelles to be available. You want all of your players to be available, but I don't want him to start. I think that Shaw and Dan Burn did a fantastic job against Nottingham Forest, and Dan Burn is returning to his old club as well. Shaw, for me, was fantastic, picking the ball up, moving forward. Dan Burn, I know he's a huge lad, but he looks even bigger on that. He's so commanding in that centre-back spot, and Eddie Howe was asked about Sven Botman. Will he get his chance? And Eddie Howe pretty much said that Botman has been exceptional in training. He's got a huge future with the club. He just wanted some continuity for the Nottingham Forest game, which makes sense. And he was asked as well, is he planning on doing a Bruno, where he slowly integrates him into the side before he finally gives him the game time? It's going to be a little bit different with Botman, because with centre-backs, you don't really change it mid-game. You try and stick with the back line for the entire game. Unless we're winning 2 or 3-0, then we might make a change. So I don't think Botman will do a Bruno and come on at half-time here and come on for 20 minutes there. I think he'll wait for the game that he suits him best and then play him from the start. And then I think once he's in the team, as I say, Just because he wasn't against Nottingham Forest, just because he might not be against Brighton, just because he might not be in the next game or the next game, I'm hoping Botman's going to be here for 10 years, to be honest. So, and I think he will have a great future with the club. So just because he misses one or two games, I don't think we need to worry. I honestly hope he'll be here for the next 8, 9, 10, 11 years. So if it takes a few more games to get him involved, I'm sure we can wait. But yeah, he spoke about Dan Burn. It's obviously a big game for him returning to Brighton. He got a great reception from the Brighton away fans at St James's Park. I imagine he'll get a great reception from the Brighton home fans in this game as well. From the previews that I've seen, the Brighton fans still love him. I think he did a great job. And you think that Brighton sold Cucurella to Chelsea for 50 million. You know, Dan Burn, 12, 15 million. What a signing that was. You know, from the same club, and the job he's done has been incredible for us. Obviously, he's an older player, and it's a bit different. But, yeah, great signing, and I expect them both to start. So even though Lascelles has been mentioned, Botman's been mentioned, I expect it'll be the same back line as we saw against Nottingham Forest. And then he also mentioned a few other injuries. Jamal Lewis and Fernandez are back in training. He saw them this week, but again, I don't think they're going to feature this weekend, really. And he also mentioned Crafty as well. He picked up a knock, but is understood to be fine. So, and we want everyone fit. We want everyone fit. We want all of the options we can have. Eddie Howe continues to tell us what a great player Fernandez is. And don't get me wrong, Fernandez has had some great games in a black and white shirt for us. But we haven't seen him in ages. I still think Lewis and Fernandez are quite possibly on the chopping block should it come down to it, and that's nothing against them. They've both given it their all. Fernandez was great for a couple of seasons. Lewis never really got his chance, and I think would have had his chance this season. Behind target, it's Dummett, Richie, Lewis. Like, that's the thing. I think Eddie Howe wanted Lewis to be that second behind target, young, upcoming player. Eddie Howe has got the time to work with him to improve his game, but due to the injury, he hasn't had a pre-season. But it all depends on what we do this transfer window, because if we possibly don't bring in as many players as maybe we hope we will, there's no reason to let them go. I think that's why Eddie Howe's being quite careful about what he says on the squad and what's going to happen next. So in terms of transfers, as I say, Eddie Howe was asked, are we any further forward? Or are we any closer? And he said, I'm really sorry to say no. Hopefully next week will be different. I'd love to bring players in. And he was, fairly open about it. It's great to hear him just talk honestly, to be honest. I'd rather he tell us the truth than, previous managers, we're scraping to do this and we're trying to do that, Quite open about it. Was smiling, almost laughing as he said it, and I think in a very Eddie Howe way, kind of brushed it off a little bit. Yes, we are looking for players. As I say, he said, I would love to bring some in, but right now, we aren't quite where we want to be. We know he wants to bring in attacking players, and following the Shelvey injury, he was also asked, is midfield now a consideration? And he actually said very Eddie Howe said, it's not our main focus, but it's certainly in the back of our minds. So, very Eddie Howe hasn't really said too much there. In my opinion, and I spoke about this yesterday, I think midfield needs to be in a priority, to be honest. I think Willock, Bruno, Joy, fantastic against Nottingham Forest. I think the three of them will start again against Brighton. The only thing that I thought was he could potentially look to maybe drop Willock into Longstaff for maybe a little bit more protection away from home. But you look at how much possession Brighton had in their last game against Manchester United. I know they won, but they only had 35% possession. I'm hoping we can go there and we can have all the possession again. And if that's the case, then does the back line need the defensive cover? It's tough to say. And in fairness, Brighton really attack down those wings. They're plumbing down those wings and will be in the midfield. So if anything, I think Bruno, Joey and Willock will run that midfield no problem. it'll be Trippier and Target who have got to be the ones with the wits about them, because that's where they're going to come in down those wings, and it means that we might need to see Maxi and Alma on trying to cover as well. So that'll be a big one to see, but I think in midfield we've got it covered, and Eddie Howe makes changes. Eddie Howe is not scared to make a change, and it would not surprise me if we maybe did see Longstaff in. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw Botman come in. It wouldn't surprise me if he played Lascelles. Now, I don't expect him to make any of those changes, but if he did, it's Eddie Howe, and he always does what he thinks is best. So we'll have to just wait and see on that one. But in terms of the transfers, as I mentioned, he said there is no update as of this week. We've obviously had a lot of links coming through this week. We're understood to be going in for that Ramos from Benfica, which would be a great one. But generally, we're being linked with 2 or 3, 4 strikers this week, and all of them early 20s, attacking, fast. You know, we're clearly in the market for that kind of player. We're also in the market for those midfielders. So although Eddie Howe is trying to creep it down a little bit, we're in there. We're trying to do something. And as I said, Brighton was far too fast approaching. It was going to be next week, and he has himself said hopefully things will be different next week. And I'll tell you what, Eddie, I'm hoping for that as well. He spoke a little bit about how he's been trying to educate the players on the history of Newcastle United and looking at the history of certain iconic players. He was asked what players. He kept quiet on that one. He said a lot of players. He didn't want to name certain ones and then leave people off, but you've got to imagine players like Shearer will be in there, Gaza, Ginola. I've no doubt specifically that Entertainer's era. And he actually spoke about this in the interview as well, saying that it's a club associated with that kind of football. And he said it's very important to go out and win games, but it's also important to entertain your crowd and give the fans what they want to see. He's good, isn't he? He speaks so well because he knows what the fan base wants, and he's trying to now educate the players. He said that they had watched some game footage as well. I've no doubt one of those games would have been the classic with the Philly Albert goal. He said they did watch some game footage, and he was also asked about, he spoke about the Keegan era, and then was asked would he be interested in someone like Keegan speaking to the players, and he said yeah. He said that he'd be really up for having a legend like that come in and talk to the players. And he was also going down the route of a little bit saying, would you be up for this and would you be up for that? And Eddie Howe kind of calmed it down a little bit and said, you know, we're doing what we're doing right now. We've won the first game. Maybe if we can get to game number 20, see how we're doing, then we can discuss that a little bit more. But so he did try and cool it down again, very Eddie Howe, but generally was cracking. And I've no doubt if they need anyone to inspire some players in a black and white shirt and let them know what the club means to the fans, to the city, Kevin Keegan's your man, because he has some of the greatest interview responses I've ever seen online, and obviously what he did for the club, he knew exactly what it meant to the fans. And as I say, it was great to hear. So we're going in against Brighton tomorrow. Let me know your predictions down below. I will have all the usual stuff on the channel. I'll have a pre-match chat in the morning. I'll likely have my instant reaction straight after the game as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about Newcastle and Brighton. So subscribe. Do not miss any future videos. We're recording every day, uploading every day, and I'll have multiple videos out tomorrow. So fingers crossed it's a win, and we've got something to smile about in tomorrow's videos. Alright guys, so as I say, if you're still watching 14 minutes later and you haven't hit that big red button, please do. It really helps the channel. It means you guys do not miss any future videos. Let me know your thoughts on Eddie Howe speaking to Kevin Keegan, the transfer window so far, and as I say, the tough game that I think it will be down at the Amex tomorrow. If you're going, let me know down below as well. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night, great weekend, and I'll catch you later.